What's up guys, my name is Liam and today we're going to be talking about the Infinity Mice Infinite Gaming Mousepads. There's actually 3 versions. They have a control, a hybrid, and a speed. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking them all down, trying to help you guys decide which one of these is going to be the perfect gaming mousepad for you. So let's check it out. Alright guys, and before we get started, I did want to let you know, Infinity Mice did send me out 2 of these 3 pads. They sent me out the control and the hybrid. However, that being said, that's not going to change the outcome of the video. Everything you'll be hearing in this video is my own words and my own opinions. So starting out with the box, this is what the artwork looks like on the front of the box, and they do come with this type of a sleeve style box, so very accessible for you to store these mouse pads or to carry them with you if you're traveling somewhere without having to worry about getting them damaged. And when it comes to the actual pads themselves, currently they are coming in this red colorway. There's going to be different colors coming out in the future. As far as the sizes go, they do offer 2 different sizes. This one is a 490 millimeters in width by 490 millimeters in height, and all the pads do come in at 3.5 millimeters in thickness. And they do also have the option where you can get it coming in at 490 millimeters in width by 420 millimeters in height. And for the quality that you do get with these mouse pads, it really is unbelievable. The price of the 490 by 490 is $39.99, and the 490 by 420 millimeters is $34.99. And coming over to the bottom, all these use a custom IPU base. Really cool looking. It has their logo here on it. It has a really soft and sticky feeling to it, and once I place these on my desk, I haven't had any problems with these pads moving around during my gameplay. And though the 3.5 millimeter soft base is easy to push into, I never felt like it was too plush. It does add a great sense of stability. The stitching on all 3 of my copies is done very well. It feels very premium, and it does sit slightly below the actual surface itself. They do have their name down here in the bottom right corner, and it does feel like it's some type of like vinyl sticker or something like that. It does stick up off of the surface, and you can feel it when you go over your mouse. But like I've said in all my videos, I never really go down in the very bottom right corner of my mouse pad, so for me it personally hasn't been an issue. And starting out with the Infinite Control, the surface on this feels really smooth. There is a very minimal slight bit of a texture, but it does feel a lot softer and smoother than something compared to the Zowie GSR. The performance of the Infinite Control pad has been incredible. I feel like this is one of the greatest sense of control mouse pads out there that I have recently tested, and the reason I've been enjoying it so much is even though you do get such an incredible sense of control, especially when you're making the micro adjustments and stuff like that, it doesn't feel like it's overly too muddy. I feel like it has a very smooth glide, and when I was tracking my shots and trying to get the absolute best control possible, I really feel like this pad does just an incredible job at it. I do feel like it has a little bit of a slower glide along the y-axis and a little bit of a quicker glide on the x-axis. I just really feel like this pad has been performing really consistent for me. And just to be clear, I've only had a chance to use this in the incredibly hot and humid environment that I live in. So the fact that it is really humid where I'm at right now, and the fact that this hasn't really felt too muddy to me, has been really impressive on the performance. One thing that I have noticed with the surface of the control pad is it does like to collect hairs. So just make sure that you keep it clean and stay on top of it. One method I've been using to keep the hairs off my mouse pads recently is I've been using this little electronic fan thing. It does have a rubberized tip, and it blows air at a pretty good volume, so I just try and spray the hairs off with this. And if it doesn't work, the rubber tip here, as long as you don't dig too much in the pad or something like that, you can kind of use it to kind of scoop them out. So that is definitely one option there for you guys. But I must say that the overall performance on the surface, no matter what skates I'm using, whether you're using the corner skates or the bigger skates, it's pretty much been the same thing. Very smooth glide. I have also been pretty impressed with how the glass skates and the sapphire skates and even these tiger eye skates, everything has been performing great on here. I don't feel like the glass skates really get too muddy on here compared to some of the other surfaces I've been using. It still is really smooth overall. And if you were to compare the Infinite Control to something like the Lethal Gaming Gear Saturn Pro, I do feel like the Saturn Pro is a much quicker pad overall. The Saturn Pro does have an equal X and Y axis on it as far as the overall speed goes. And on the Infinite Control is a much slower and a much more control pad just all around. And as I was contesting the Infinite Control against everything out there, I was really impressed to find that this thing performs almost exactly identical to the Zowie GSR in terms of overall speed. And even though both of these pads are very similar in the overall speed, the one thing that's very shocking to me is they do perform pretty differently, because the Zowie GSR is a very muddy, and I feel like with humidity it does become very inconsistent, and I really feel like this is where the Infinite control pad shines, because I never had the issues with the inconsistencies. And just so you guys know, this is the original GSR. This is not the brand new GSR 2, but from what I can tell between using these two pads, I really feel like the Infinite control is just a more consistent and all-around better version of a GSR. All right, and then next up we have the Infinity Mice Infinite Hybrid. This does have a textured surface and it feels incredibly similar to the Artisan FX Hayate Atsu. And though the surfaces feel very similar to one another to the touch, the performance of the two are almost nothing alike. Even though this is a hybrid pad and you do get overall a quicker and a smoother glide, it feels a little bit faster than the control pad, I would still categorize the overall performance of this somewhere still similar to some of the other control pads out there. And though it is on the slower side of things, it does have an equally fast x-axis to the y-axis. And the performance of using different types of skates, again, it has been really consistent overall with the total speed between the smaller corner skates and even the bigger types of skates. The one thing that I do find interesting, for whatever reason, I do have the Tiger Ice G Pro Superlight skates on here. These are just the stock corner skates that come on the Ponage, even though they're really premium. I do feel like I get a little bit more control and stopping power with these corner skates on the Ponage compared to these Tiger Ice bigger skates. It does feel a little bit smoother, and it feels like I have just a little bit less control when I'm doing the micro adjustments. But this pad is kind of the same experience. It feels really good and consistent. The glass and the sapphire skates on here, they feel about equal as one another. They don't feel too muddy or anything like that. They do feel pretty smooth. I would say that the sapphire skates, they do feel just a little bit quicker in the micro adjustments and the initial friction than the glass skates. Could be due to the fact that I am in high humidity right now. And I didn't really like the dot skates that much on the control pad. I definitely feel like the control pad works a lot better with the bigger skates, but I do feel like the dot skates do overall give you a much quicker and faster glide on the surface, and you do get a little bit less initial friction. And like I'd mentioned, even though this is classified as a hybrid pad, I'd kind of put these somewhere in the category whereas the control was similar to the GSR. I do feel like this hybrid pad is kind of like what the GSR SE would be. So still kind of classified as a control pad, but just a little bit quicker. When you're talking about the overall speed and feeling between the Saturn Pro and the hybrid pad, the speed between these two, like I said, even on the X and Y axis, and they feel incredibly similar to one another. When you push into the Saturn Pro, I feel like it does give you more stopping power. And also the Memoria Pro kind of has pretty similar performance when it comes to the Infinity Mice hybrid pad. Again, they have both almost the exact same identical speed, but I do feel like when you are pushing into the Memoria Pro, I do feel like it does offer a little bit more stopping power compared to the Infinite hybrid. So let's go and drop the glide test between the Infinite hybrid and the Memoria Pro. All right, and then finally, when it comes to the Infinite Speed, the second I took this out of the box and placed it on my desk, I just fell in love with the overall performance. Just like all of the other typical types of mouse pads that I personally enjoy, it does have a really smooth surface, and it has a very fast X and Y axis. And the surfaces on all three of these pads don't have any coating. The speed feels really fast, and when you're comparing different types of skates, the smaller skates just make the overall glide a bit quicker. And another reason why I love gaming on these smooth surfaces so much is because once you do actually push into the surface, you do get it to slow down just a little bit, and you do get a little more sense of control. Even the glass skates and the sapphire skates have been performing really well on the surface. They feel incredibly smooth, and they have very minimal initial static friction. Even the dot skates have been working really well on here, and the glide does feel just a little bit faster, but I would definitely say that this compares something closer to the Artisan Raiden, where it does feel a little bit more slippery. You don't have the same sense of control that you get with something like the Lamzu Energon. And when comparing the Infinite Speed to the Artisan Raiden in the X Soft, this is practically a brand new Raiden. It has very little use on it, so the coating is still pretty solid on it, but I do feel like the Raiden does feel a bit softer and more plush, whereas the overall plushness on the Infinite Speed pad, it does feel just a little bit more firm. I almost feel like with the Infinite Speed pad, even though these two feel very similar to one another, I do feel like you get just a little bit less of the initial static friction on the Infinite Speed pad compared to the Raiden. And since the Raiden is a little bit more plush with the X Soft version, I do feel like it is a little bit easier to push into and a little bit easier to get a little bit more stopping power. However, the performance between these two are very similar to one another, so let's go ahead and drop the glide test between the Artisan Raiden X Soft versus the Infinite Speed. Alright guys, so that wraps things up on the Infinity Mice Infinite pads, and I must say that I'm a huge fan of these and I've been just absolutely loving the performance of them. I know that there's some fierce competition right now out there in the mousepad market, and there's been just so many great offerings coming out. I really do feel like that these are some of my favorites that are out there right now. I would say that when it comes to the infinite control, if I am trying to get the most control possible but still trying to maintain a consistent glide, I would say that the infinite control is probably my favorite control pad right now. And then also when it comes to the infinite speed, I've been absolutely loving this thing. This probably is even my second favorite pad overall right now. For those of you that know, I absolutely love speed pads. I love the way that this thing performs and feels on my desk, and I've been a huge fan of it. Like I had mentioned, the infinite speed does give you a little bit less control compared to something like the Energon, but if you are looking for something that's faster and something that's more in line with the Artisan Raiden and you really enjoy that pad, I would absolutely recommend checking this thing out. And either way, I really don't feel like you can go wrong with picking up any three of these. Alright guys, so if you have any additional questions or feel like there's anything that I left out, please let me know down in the comments below. Aside from that, if you've enjoyed watching this video and are interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please subscribe to my channel and drop this video a like. I did leave affiliate links down in the description below if you're looking at picking up any of my favorite gear out there and supporting the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.